Welcome back to Entrepreneur Country TV. I'm Julie Meyer and I'm filming from Zagreb, Croatia, where I've been all week meeting with our business partners for Entrepreneur Country, as well as meeting with the leading entrepreneurs in Zagreb. There's a tremendous amount going on. When I first started coming to Zagreb a couple of years ago, I was fortunate to meet our guest today. I'm really pleased to introduce to you Monica Mikak, who is with QEV Technologies. We've invited Monica to share a bit about her entrepreneurial journey as well as the company that she's building today. Monica, good to have you with us.
Hi, Julie. It's a pleasure to be here and share my story.
Indeed. And so, we have more than 325,000 people tuning into Entrepreneur Country when we broadcast. This will be shown to those people. Tell them a little bit about who you are as an entrepreneur.
So my journey as an entrepreneur started now it's more than 10 years ago. Whoa, it sounds a lot. So I have started with Rimac Automobili from Croatia while company was still in a garage phase. Basically at that moment I didn't know what to expect, and we just wanted to make the fastest electric supercar, and that was it. We never considered that the company is now going to be 650 people, and that my journey will at the end go in some completely another way. And I never actually imagined that I'm going to be connected with electric vehicle mobility and all of the technology that is happening. I actually studied journalism and public relations, so nothing related to electric vehicles. But at the moment when I started, there was not, you couldn't attend the university and to really learn about electric vehicles. So everything that we were doing, we were doing by trial and error, and we were, exploring new things, new technologies. And I was always a curious person, so I wanted to really learn a lot. And we were a small team. So at the beginning, there was only 8 people in Rimac Automobili. We had to build a car for Frankfurt Motor Show 2011. So I basically I needed to do whatever is necessary. Logistic, finances, administration, public relations, marketing, and even assembling batteries before Frankfurt Motor Show, because that's the way it goes. And then we had really a lot of ups and downs on our way, how it goes with startups, and you're struggling to get the money. That's always the hardest part, in my opinion. We managed to get the first financing round for Rimac Automobili in 2014. At that moment, it was finally a time to bootstrap and to really go ahead with all of the future development. So the company grew up to 350 people in beginning 2018. When I decided for a change in my career, I decided to join a company, QEV Technologies, in Spain. Which is also actively involved in electric mobility segment. So basically QEV Technology is active in 3 different segments of work. We support Formula E, so we run one of the teams in the Formula E, and we develop all of the technology for the Formula E. Then we use all of the technology and apply it to the projects that we do for other clients, where we develop from first design until the finished product, the whole car in-house. And then,
does it make it QEV like a design shop, or what is the equivalent of it? How does that?
You don't have many similar companies on the market currently, because in the automotive industry you would go to one supplier and he would do development of a chassis for you, maybe. Then you would go to another supplier, he would do development of the body, another one development of a powertrain. And we are actually one of the rare companies. Rimac Automobili is doing the similar, but now is shifting more. That was the business that was Rimac doing before. Now Rimac is shifting to supplying components to the automotive companies, and it's aiming more for being supplier to the automotive market and producing their sports car. While we really offer to any of the clients to come and say, okay, I want to develop a supercar. And for example, at Geneva Motor Show this year, we had 3 different supercars exhibited. One was Hispano Suiza, Spanish brand, and another 2 were Arcfox, which is one of the Chinese brands, really famous brand in China, that presented at Geneva Motor Show. So it's one-stop shop for those companies that want to have high-performance electric vehicles. So from first design until the finished product, everything is developed and produced in-house. And then we noticed that was actually a spin, you know, because we noticed this technology that is really specific and you're aiming for racing, for high performance cars, actually it could have a mass market application. And some of the knowledge and some of the IP that you gather could be applied to change the way of transportation in emerging countries. So we started a project in Philippines 2.5 years ago. I'm not sure, have you ever been to Philippines?
I haven't, but you know, whenever we, you know, emerging countries, I always think, you know, they can be developing at different stages, different parts of the economy. So it's interesting. I was going to ask, which are the emerging countries? Yeah.
So what happened in Philippines? You have 300,000 jeepneys. Those are minibuses they use. Actually, those jeepneys, after the Second World War, there were a lot of American Army jeeps left in Philippines. So people took those jeeps, cut them in half, prolonged them, and make them a minibus.
Wow.
And if you go now to Philippines, you will see, because they're, you know, driving everywhere, but they're using all diesel engines.
Right.
And they're polluting heavily. So in Philippines, the problem with pollution is that you cannot really breathe when you're walking on the streets of Manila.
Wow. Oh my goodness.
Because it's terrible, you know, you have so many those jeepneys driving around. Most of the time they are standing. In a day, they don't go more than 100 kilometers, but most of the time standing and, you know, using this diesel engine that is polluting. You cannot breathe around them.
Wow.
And it's a big problem. And the government is actually pushing a lot to make changes. And even the World Bank is investing significant amount of money to modernize the jeepneys, but they didn't have technology. So we noticed really an opportunity, and we made for the government to show them that this is really possible. We made a first prototype in like 60 days, which is crazy, which is something that you don't do usually. And then you had all of the ministers of Philippines driving in this jeepney, electric jeepney, and saying how they really want to change and transfer all of the jeepneys to electric. Finally, this year, because, you know, it's always a process, we needed then from this prototype that was like really quick and dirty, we needed to make a proper product that could go on the road. So basically it's the whole platform for a minibus that can just be integrated in already existing minibus, or it can be used for building new minibuses. And finally, right now, we are having around 50 electric minibuses driving around Manila, and more to come in the future. Only for next year, the plan is to have 500 more electric ones driving and slowly moving the economy. So you can imagine, you know, only attacking part of the Philippines market, we are already talking about huge numbers, because there is 300,000 units. But there is a similar problem in Africa, there is a similar problem in India, similar problems in many countries in Latin America, and we actually started to deliver first platforms also in Latin America, in Peru.
So QEV is a battery company, it's a platform company, it's a process company. For the viewers that are, you know, they're interested, but they, you know, they're not experts in transportation mobility. How are you positioned in the market?
Technology company. That would be probably the best way to explain. It's a technology company, and we are always focused on core technologies when it comes to electric mobility. So definitely we are developing battery technology, but we are also, you know, developing different technologies when it comes to motors, when it comes to inverters, when it comes to all of the components of electric powertrain. So our focus is mostly on a technology related to electric powertrain. And maybe one thing what is important for viewers that are not so into electric mobility, what is the difference when it comes to electric vehicles and gas-powered vehicles? Software is really one of the important key things that is running everything, and this is one of the IPs that we have in-house.
Okay, great. Now, the business is doing incredibly well. You've received funding from the European Investment Bank. That's huge. I mean, it's almost not normal, because they tend to invest through other vehicles. So is this a strategic company for Europe?
So European Investment Bank actually has a program where they are financing startups, although those are not really startups, because you need to achieve certain revenues.
And you had quite a high revenue growth independently of any funding.
So yes, up to now we were actually completely financed by the existing business and ongoing business, and we were able to scale up to 12 million for a year, which is really incredible for a startup, technology startup especially.
Yeah, no, it's incredible. It's well done.
And this was what really helped us, and this is what attracted the European Investment Bank, and they saw the opportunity of the new technologies. So it's also, of course, in line with the electric and green mobility, sustainable, and those are projects where they like to invest. So they decided to close a financing with us of 17 million euros. It was closed just recently. and this is something that will really help us, because we were at the moment where we were balancing, okay, we have a huge project not only in Philippines but Latin America and all other emerging countries, but to scale up it's always a chicken and egg problem, and you need money to really be able to jump and make this step and start to produce those platforms in thousands of units, because it's one thing to make few prototypes and it's another thing to deliver 10,000 platforms per year, which is our end goal. We are we haven't still come to this point, but this is the way we are looking in the future.
Now, there's a lot of entrepreneurs and would-be entrepreneurs, people that are, young professionals or, people in their 30s that are saying, wow, she certainly chose those companies well. Why do I get the sense that, you chose them well, but then you just worked hard and, you have something to share with the community about how much dedication and focus? Tell us a little bit about, first of all, how did you choose these companies? It's pretty amazing. You got 2 big hits there. And then what does it take to be as successful as you are for the people watching this? This is not something you show up at 9 o'clock and you leave at 6. Yeah.
Honestly, when it comes to Rimac, I really was not aware that the company is going to be so big. And I joined really early, at the early moment of the company, and many people predicted that we are not going to make it, that it's not possible to make a car in Croatia, that what we are doing is completely crazy. But I always believed in what I was doing. I really saw the future. And it was not hard for me then to work 24/7 if needed, because that's the only way at the end to succeed. And then, things just started to roll finally. There is a lot of downs that you experience on the way, of course, and you need to be strong enough to maintain and keep going. And
resilient.
There's always a thing that I'm saying, like, okay, when you hit the rock bottom, the only thing that you have to do is just push a little bit more harder and swim up. And eventually, you will come to that point. But it can be exhausting. It can be exhausting because, you constantly you're trying and not really succeeding what you want. And then at the moment, all of a sudden you're up and everything is great, and people see just this part in most of the cases, but there is a long way to go to this part. And then when it comes to QEV Technologies, so for me, I also think that it's really important for a company to be successful to have a great team. That's one of the key things to make success. So you can have amazing idea, but if the team is not right and if the team is not able to really do those ideas and make them like, okay, those ideas are becoming reality, it's not possible to do it. So that was my trigger why I joined QEV Technologies. I really liked the team. I went there, I actually wanted to relax a little bit. Honestly, after Rimac Automobile, I wanted to take a little bit of break because it was 8 years of really hard work. And then when I saw the team in QEV Technologies, somehow I clicked. And for me, it was like, wow, those guys are really great. They know what they're doing. I really like them. And on Friday, I stopped working in Rimac, and on Monday, I was working in QEV Technologies. So that's how it goes.
I met you when you were still at Rimac, and I'm really happy that I did. You were impressive then, and it's really interesting to see the takeoff of QEV. Now, you're Croatian. You live in Barcelona with QEV, or what's your role is growth strategy, biz dev? What are you doing specifically?
So my specific role is Chief Business Officer.
Yep.
I'm running the investment process of the company, and I'm running business development. But of course, you can imagine we are still a company of 100 people. When you are 100 people, it's in automotive industry specifically, it's small company.
Right.
So I also have to do, support when it comes to the strategy part. I'm handling part of the marketing. So I'm really involved, highly working with the top management of the company and leading the way where we want to go and what we want to achieve in the future. And I'm balancing actually between Barcelona and Zagreb. So I work 1 week in Barcelona, 1 week in Zagreb.
Wow.
Although it's not really like that because my work requires a lot of traveling. So it's I may be in Dubai, then afterwards I may be in China, and then Barcelona. But I think today, world is connected, and the only thing you need is your computer and internet, and you can make it work.
Anywhere.
So
absolutely. Now, in being here in Zagreb all week and telling people that I was interviewing you, everybody wants to meet you, and you must know this. Everybody says, "Well, do connect me to Monica afterwards," and so forth. What is it like? I mean, you definitely have become an icon and an inspirational leader for a lot of entrepreneurs here in Croatia. How do you deal with that? Does it take up a lot of your time? Everybody's asking you to speak, everybody's asking you to talk about your success, or do you just try to push that away, or do you try to help the young entrepreneurs coming through?
So when it comes to different conferences, yes, I receive a lot of invitations, and I'm trying to balance. I'm trying to contribute because I really want to push young people. I want to motivate them to do the same. I want to share my experience so maybe they don't do the same mistakes that I did. But it's sometimes hard to balance. So at the end, I need to really choose, which conferences I'm doing. So I try to limit myself, and I always say okay, this year I'm going to do a certain number of conferences, not more. And then I don't know how it happens always that it's more. And when it comes to supporting the community, I'm actually board advisor to one of the startups in Croatia, Habig. They are in logistic business, so completely different industry. But she's also a lady entrepreneur. I know her for 10 years. I cooperated with her in Rimac Automobili, and I noticed also that she has this spark, and she can be really successful entrepreneur. Liked the idea and decided to support more than by just sharing my experience, but also sharing my network and in any other way that I can help her out. But it's really hard, I have to balance. Unfortunately, I have received many requests also from some other companies that wanted similar support.
It's not enough hours in the day.
24 hours in a day, and I need to sleep sometime.
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned Habig. I was looking at a number of portfolio companies of a friend, and he had mentioned that, so I will spend some more time with them. Now, on the, many people, refer to Tesla. Many people are referring to Rimac. People are certainly going to start referring to QEV with your funding round and all of the success you have. If somebody asked you just a simple question, what or where is the center of the automobile industry today? How would you answer that question? What or where is the center of the automobile industry today?
It's a hard question, because when it comes to electric mobility, China is so far ahead with anything that is happening in Europe or America. It's unbelievable. You have so many electric car manufacturers over there, and so many electric cars are on the road already. And I think that China came also to the point, so when it comes to development of new technologies, at least, you have certain point path of a growth, then you come to the peak point, and then at this peak point, you will have a slow decline, because there will be half of the company that will probably, those are startups that will not succeed, and companies that will not make it in the future. And I think that China just crossed this point of top, they have so many different companies trying to produce electric cars. They already now are getting rid of half of those companies, and it will be only the companies that are, going to produce in the future that are going to stay. And although many people say that currently it's a big crisis in China because it's that drop happening. But I think that's a normal cycle to come to the point where electric cars are becoming a mainstream. Although we are always focused on like, okay, what is happening? What is Tesla doing? But Tesla is the only company in America that is really pushing and, really making a difference. Then when you come to Europe...
And it's a Croatian name, right?
Yeah,
Tesla was
exactly.
Croat,
Tesla
right?
was from Croatia. Actually, from a village close to where my grandmother was born.
Well, there you go. That's fantastic. Yeah.
So when it comes to Europe, on the other hand, manufacturers are moving. And everybody already have in their mind, we are going electric, we need to develop new technologies. You could see that from the fact that Porsche also invested in Rimac Automobili. So obviously, everybody is looking what is happening and everybody is moving in that direction. But I think it's a bit slower.
Okay. Now, some people, I've been trying to get a bit smart on this whole space. We've been looking at companies in the battery space. We did a investment in fleet management. We got to know the senior management at Rimac and so forth. Some people say that the media hype around electric vehicles, there's just certain, the economy can't shift to electric vehicles. Things like there's not enough cobalt, there's not enough lithium batteries. It's very hard if you are even an investor and you get lots of sources of information to really understand how fast the economy, the world, different regions are shifting to the electric vehicles being in the majority. Do you have a sense of, do you have a way to measure the progress here? You mentioned China's way ahead. Are some of these things true? That, like, for example, there's not enough cobalt to fuel lithium batteries to fuel this whole change. I hear these things and I don't know where to go to get the truth.
Honestly, when it comes to battery chemistry, at least, because, for example, we at QEV Technologies, similar as Rimac also, and some other companies, we buy cells and then we develop the battery pack around it. So when it comes to battery cell technology, I think this is something that is going to definitely change. It's really hard to predict what will be the new technology, and many people are betting on different things. Many people are betting on I don't know, lithium air batteries. So then you have graphene batteries that are like a big bet, and many companies doing business in this. So I'm really not sure, because still all of the things that I know that are happening in the industry, they are more on laboratory level. Okay. So nothing really came to the point to be able to produce in, large volumes and to deliver for all of the cars. But I think something is going to happen, something is going to change the industry. So it's not a problem if we are missing certain parts, and it will not be enough for all of the cars in the future. Because you also have to think about that the mobility as itself is going to shift completely. So I believe that what is going to happen, we are not going to own cars in the future anymore. You're going to have people that really love driving and that will maybe have like supercars in their garage because they're collectors, they're really big fans. But majority of the people, and especially young generation, they don't want to own the car anymore, because the car is second biggest expense in your life after buying apartment or house. So now in most of the cases, young people are using Uber or different mobility services, and this is something that is going to switch completely in the future, especially with autonomous vehicles coming. So I think that the automotive industry will completely reshape in the upcoming years. Probably it will not be, in a year or two. This will be a change more of talking about 20 years time, but it will change. So all of the manufacturers that are currently producing cars, they will have to shift to become mobility service providers, or something different. And autonomous and ride sharing, this is going to be big in the future, and this is going to be that everybody is going to use it, because at the end, even if you love driving, you will maybe have fun and go on the racetrack and enjoy it, but still when you are going from work, you're tired. You just want to sit in the car and read a book and don't care where the car takes you.
That's right. Now I want to pick up on one last thing about the being a partner to Formula E. I'm based in Zurich these days. Formula E is huge, and it's fascinating. It's really created this an innovation platform positioning in the market. How big can that get? I mean, how did QEV strike that partnership? That strikes me as just a phenomenal milestone, and quite a transformational partnership for QEV.
Actually, our CEO Miguel, he was one of the founders of the Formula E.
Wow.
And
wow.
yes, so he was one of the really founding team members and making Formula E big. Now at the moment when Liberty Group joined, and Liberty is also main shareholder of a Formula One, so this is something to consider.
Yes.
So it really says something, if they're owning Formula One and now owning Formula E, it really means that the Formula E is taking over, and probably the change is going to happen. It will take us a few more years, but Formula E eventually will become bigger than the Formula One it is currently.
Wow.
So for QEV Technologies, we had this racing DNA from a long time ago. Actually, our founders started their journey 20 years ago by creating first solar electric race car that raced across salt lakes in Australia. That car is still exhibited in a technical museum in Barcelona. And this racing DNA, was going through the veins of all of the founders and all of the people in the company, and they were always involved in different racing series. Of course, you need to imagine 20 years ago, those racing series were not electric. So when electric came, since they were also building electric solar power car, electric submarine, electric sports cars, those were some of the projects that they had in the meantime. They saw, okay, definitely we believe in electric, but it was really hard in 20 years. 20 years ago, it was really hard to finance completely by doing only electric, so you had to do whatever is necessary to keep the company alive.
Yes.
So they realized with the Formula E, okay, this is the way to go. We want to be part of it. And at that moment, we joined leading the China team, which actually afterwards renamed to NIO, and we won the first year championship with them.
Wow. Wow.
And the rest is history then.
Well, listen, is there any last word that you would like to share with the Entrepreneur Country audience? Something about yourself, your journey, what it takes to be an entrepreneur, the future of the car industry, the future of Europe, the future of entrepreneurship. What's your last kind of...
Maybe just like two advice that I got from really good friends in the industry. So one was advice that helped me a lot in many situations in my life, and it was, don't say no at the beginning, whatever it is, because there is always time for you to say no.
That's fantastic. I love that.
And I at the beginning I was like, why are you saying me that? Because if I know that I don't want something, I will tell it immediately.
Yeah.
And then I realized in many situations in life, and especially in negotiation, this really helps. You say yes at the beginning, and then slowly you have time always to say no and to change.
That's very good. I like that.
And then the second one that I really started to practice, and I noticed that it really makes sense. Adrian Campos, who was a former Formula One driver, he told me that he started to achieve the best results once he noticed that the biggest enemy actually was himself, to himself. And when he noticed that, he really started to change. And I gave it a thought, and and I was thinking, this really makes sense in many different situations in your life. You're the one that you're blocking yourself from success, that you're blocking yourself from making a next step, that you're afraid to make a change, to make something new.
Yeah.
And really, if you remove that part, and if you stop blocking yourself from any way in your mind, you can achieve many different things.
Monica, thank you so much for spending time to share your journey with the Entrepreneur Country TV. You're a true inspiration. It's been really delightful to see you here again before Christmas. We'll be back in touch.
It was a pleasure.
Thank you so much. That brings us to the end of another Entrepreneur Country TV. We're here in Zagreb, Croatia, filming some of the leading entrepreneurs who have particular wisdom to share with entrepreneurs around the world. Monica from QEV Technologies here today. Thank you so much. We'll see you next week.